It's 4:26.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of
Hey, yeah.
We have a special guest today who happens to be my uncle, my Tio Luis. So I'm happy to have him on. Cindy and I have been waiting for a while to get him on the show and just kind of have an interview back and forth. So we're very glad. Welcome, Tio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So
Ricky,
Cindy,
do you want to tell us a little bit about your Tio? Just kind of how close
absolutely.
you guys are. Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually never lived in the same city as my Tio that I could remember. So
Not even El Paso?
No, because he lived in Albuquerque. And then
What? Now you're in Albuquerque.
yeah, I know, isn't that weird? Full circle, right?
Yes.
So I grew up knowing him as a visiting uncle. He would come into town and I would spend time with him, and every time that I have with him is special and precious because it's not, I don't get to see him every day. He's not an everyday fixture at my, so this is like, that's been my relationship. But every time he comes and visits, I either pick up something or he influences me on something like opera or wine or, and
art.
so I just try and take advantage of the time I have whenever we do get to visit in person. So
yeah, so I met your Tio at your house that Easter Sunday.
That's right.
And he cooked all of the food, and you've always just had a really great conversation topic, so I really enjoyed our time, and then I started following you on Instagram, and I love all your food posts, so welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah. So is Rick, who's your favorite nephew? You gotta tell, and don't say Ricky just because he's here.
I asked that so I could get upset.
There is one that I called my favorite, and that was Abran.
That's my younger cousin.
Okay.
Part of it was my sister had a very rough as a single mother.
Okay.
Her choice. And so the kids were rebellious. Because one of the things that happens when you're like that is, as a child, in order to get attention, you misbehave.
Right, so you act out.
So he doesn't remember. He was like, oh no, I didn't do that. I was with my mother, and she was babysitting him, and he would come and kick me and run away. And then, so I was trying to have a discussion with my mother in the kitchen. And so I said, go ahead and finish cooking. I'm going to take care of this.
Ooh.
And so I tickled him. And so it gets to the point where you tickle and it's like, stop. It's like, no, I'm not going to stop. And then he finally settled down. And then I came back to the kitchen, and he was just sitting on my lap, and I would say, you're my favorite. Because I figured at the time he needed the positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
And sure enough, all his cousins got upset. Even my mother said, you shouldn't call him your favorite.
And I bet Ricky got upset because he needs all the attention.
Yeah.
Well, I know I'm second favorite. I better be.
Even my mom scolded me.
Yeah.
Mother saying you shouldn't say that. Who's your favorite? So he's always from that point on, I called him my favorite.
It's funny that my grandmother got upset with you about that, because I remember when I got the call that she only had a while to live because she had gotten cancer, and I rushed down to see her and spend time with her before, everything happened. So I got there like maybe 3 or 4 days before she passed away. And by that time, they were just keeping her comfortable. So she was on hospice. So the morphine was like flowing, and she was hallucinating and just talking and giving stories. And it was good. It wasn't too crazy, but it felt good. Like she was talking about stuff about when I was a little kid and what she used to do with me. And
Yeah,
then
remembering stuff.
she told me and I don't know if she told all of her grandkids this, but she told me I was her favorite. And I was like, oh, it meant like the world to me. Like, but that's why I'm like, why is she getting mad at you, Theo? Because she did the same thing when she was leaving us.
Well, she probably tried really hard not to say it. And then when she was in that vulnerable state, like she probably had no filter.
Yeah. And she told me it's because it's upsetting the other kids, my other nephews. Because
I don't ever remember that because I would have thrown a tantrum.
And I was like,
he would have. God.
Yes, he would have kicked me and run away.
Just to get the next spot as the favorite.
Yeah.
I've never been the favorite for anybody. Like my grandpa, my mom's dad, he's always said that I'm the prettiest, but I mean,
you're so pretty.
But like, but I've never been the favorite. Like I always know, my sister thinks that she's a favorite, but I'm like, no, it's our cousin Magali. She's a favorite.
Is it because you're in the middle?
I'm one of the oldest. It's just my cousin Maida, and then it's me, and we have a shit ton of cousins. Like my grandparents had 13 kids, and like everyone. Like, I mean, it's a lot of us. So I'm one of the oldest ones. I don't know.
You know what though, Cindy, and I don't know if this is how you were brought up or if it's just your personality, but Cindy is not very cariñosa.
No.
She's not very, she does not wear her feelings on her sleeve. So and even if we're having a moment, like, it's hard. Like, it's not the type to like go up to Cindy and like be like, oh my God, I love you, and give her a kiss and hug her. Like we would say it in a different way because I know that she's not very.
I'm not comfortable with that, but that's what my mom says. So like her little cop out for me not being her favorite, because it's just me and my sister.
But that's because moms want that daughter love, so it's not a cop out. That's why I know. That's what I'm mentioning to you, like as I noticed that.
No, so my mom's cop out is that I don't need her. She's like, you've never needed me. Like you've never needed me to hold your hand while you walk across the street. You've always been smart enough to know look both ways, and what, like you've never needed me. And Lisa has always needed me. She was always following me, tagging along.
That makes
sense. I've just always been very independent. So she's like, it's not that Lisa's my favorite. It's just that you don't need me. You haven't needed me for as long as I can remember.
Okay, yeah, that does sound like a cop out, but I can see it.
Yeah,
I can see what she means though.
Yeah, whatever.
I thought maybe because you just weren't cariñosa with your mom. Like, I'm a mama's boy.
No, well, I'm not, but my mom isn't that way either. She's not like that. We're not a very touchy-feely family. That's just not who we are.
We weren't either. We have become that way.
Yeah.
That way. But I was the fourth, and so
out of how many?
9.
Okay.
9 kids.
Yeah. So being in the middle, you become the diplomat, the negotiator, because the older ones can beat you up, and the younger ones need the attention or whatever. So you have to negotiate whatever you can get.
Yeah.
Which I find funny and kind of ironic. Can you tell everybody what you do for a living? Because you're saying negotiating, and that just kind of.
Well, now the job title is called service rep, but what I do is if a teacher is in trouble at work or a school employee, I represent them. So in New York, it's called a union, or in Chicago or Los Angeles. In Texas, there are very few unions, if they do exist. And so we can't, I think it's against the law to form a union for teachers. So I get to negotiate terms. In fact, today I wrote up a grievance for the person.
Okay.
I said submit it. And his principal called him right away. It's like, let's negotiate. I will give you this. And I told him it's because we had a solid case.
That's right. That's right.
And so there's that's what I do now. I try to resolve problems and try to create win-win. Because in most hierarchies, there's the top and there's the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
The top always wins, the bottom loses. And I tell them that when I come in, I don't want to agitate management.
Right. There's
After
retaliation.
After I leave, you have to work with that person.
That's right.
And so my job is to open up communication so that both of you win and nobody loses.
So my husband works for UPS and he's part of the union, and and he says that there are, you know, that's like they always keep that in their back pocket. So there's been times whenever he works like 70 hours a week straight, and then the union has it in their contract where they can't work that many hours for so many weeks in a row. And
Right.
so like his manager will schedule him for that many weeks and outside of that time frame, and he'll bring it to his attention and be like, dude, you know, not dude, right? But
Right.
he'll be like, hey, I've already worked 70 hours the last like 4 weeks or whatever, and I'm not supposed to this week. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Like, let me fix it. And then Wednesday comes along and he still hasn't fixed it. Oh man, I forgot, whatever. And then Santos just says, you know, those little magic words, well, I don't want to file a grievance. And then right away, like Friday off.
Yeah.
Because they would rather negotiate prior to than to get to that far of filing that grievance. Yeah.
I have one that's coming up. It's without mentioning names.
Mm-hmm.
And it was out of my realm. I just didn't know what to do. And yet I'm a gay man.
Mm-hmm.
It is a person who identifies as female,
Mm-hmm.
is currently a male,
Mm-hmm.
and is going to have the operation.
Mm-hmm.
And so come fall, he wants to make sure that when he is a she, that she doesn't lose her job because of the gender change.
Wow.
It's
That's hard.
tough in Texas too.
And it's like, what am I going to do? I quickly got on the phone. It's like, can we find out if this has happened in New York or California, where that might be more common? Because here in Texas, we're in the Bible Belt and stuff. And,
right.
How am I going to handle it? And so we have a team that is going to work on the law as well as how to transition. What is the students going to do? You know, and luckily it's a middle school, so the kids, it's always a new class of kids. So the class coming in is going to know her as a female. But what's going to happen with the families when they find out and stuff. And so that's a fascinating aspect. And I have
Is it a public school or is it a private or charter?
It's public school. And
so it might be a little easier, right? Because the parents don't have that much control versus like a private school where they can easily say, I'm going to withdraw my student and you won't get the funding. Right.
Yeah. And a great teacher has been honored with awards and stuff.
Yeah.
So Theo, question for you on this. Is this more common now? Because I feel like now that we're in like 2020, as opposed to 1995, where this would how is that different from back then? A teacher being able to be comfortable enough to have that transition and go and change her identity with her employer.
Like I don't think it happened, right?
Well, you get to see the films of a guy being a woman or whatever, and things in the past, and they're pioneers.
Absolutely.
And so me growing up, it was an honor to marry you, you and John.
Yes, everybody. He married me and my husband, if you know that.
You know, in the 70s and 60s, late 60s, the love generation and the flowers, and you get to see the psychedelics and whatnot. It was still binary. It's male and female.
Right.
There was no spectrum of how male are you or how female. So even homosexuality was an experiment, and not seen as, well, you're a man and she's a woman, and so this doesn't work,
Yeah.
and this doesn't work.
Right.
That mentality, uh,
Yeah.
even though there was the studies of Johnson where he had a spectrum of how gay are you or how straight are you.
What is it? The Kinsey scale?
The Kinsey scale, yes.
Watch out, Cindy.
And so, you know, that was being talked about, but he could write about it, and it was an academic paper.
Like
But now,
research.
yeah, and so he found out that men did experiment with men, and even though they were married and stuff, and he had a spectrum. We're beginning to see that, but you know, in my lifetime, it's like a big no-no. And then there was don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
And then even President Obama, Biden is the one who convinced him that he should allow gay marriages, and because even the first Black president was conservative on the issue.
Even the first woman candidate was too, because Hillary wasn't for same-sex marriage.
She was gonna reverse it, right?
Well, she campaigned for Goldwater in her youth, which is a Republican. So I got to see that whole spectrum, and I didn't ask my husband to marry me until 2015.
How long have you been with your husband?
1982.
That's the year I was born.
Yes. And so
God, you just aged him. Thanks.
No, I'm saying how awesome that is that they've
yeah, it's so awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah. No, which is a rarity in gay marriage.
And not just gay marriage, now even heterosexual marriage, like that's a long time period.
Yeah, so it was not some, you know, when I talked to him, it's like, hey, I saw that he dressed up, and I said, so today's the day, because I was 2015, I think that's the year that I had my heart surgery. And so I had stayed home for 2 months to recuperate. And I talked to him and said, hey, you know, my employer is now charging me for your insurance. And
I remember now. Yeah.
If we get married, I don't have to pay the additional $300 a month or so, you know, for insurance. And so one day I woke up and he was well dressed, and I thought, oh, are we doing it today? And we just went and got our license for marriage. And it happened to be around the time of our anniversary, September 4th. But
that's my anniversary.
They made us wait the 48 hours. I didn't realize that. So we literally got legally married 2 days after our anniversary.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. So my uncle was actually able to marry John and I.
He got ordained.
Yeah, he got ordained. We were going to do the civil union because it was not even legal in the United States. There was a few, I know, so Cindy's having audio issues and it like makes a loud noise on her ear. So we're probably
Can you hear it or no?
No, I hear like a and then you pull out. So I'm assuming that there's a louder noise in your ear. That's why I don't do the like I'm not hearing you guys through my earpiece. I'm hearing you through my speaker.
I know. We already talked about it. My microphone is
down. Anyways, no. So we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this interview because we're running out of time with our 40 minutes. But what I wanted to say
to get it upgraded.
It was we will. We'll stop and start it over so we can record the second half. But what I was getting at.
Legal in New Mexico, but not in Texas.
Yeah, it was legal in New Mexico, but it wasn't yet, Theo. So the point, as I'm saying, is that John and I were going to get married regardless of whether it was legal. We didn't get married because they legalized marriage. We were getting married because we wanted everybody to know that this is a serious relationship. We're moving forward, where we found each other for a reason, blah, 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 right? And so we start planning our wedding, and we're like, where can we do this? Obviously, Texas it wasn't legal. New Mexico wasn't legal yet either. So we decided to do Albuquerque because my family is close to Albuquerque. They've also lived in Albuquerque. And I think it was 10 days before we actually were scheduled and planned to get married that they passed it to be same-sex marriage was legal in New Mexico. That it passed. And so then now we're like, oh God, now it's legal. Now we got to get the forms. And so I remember going down to the courthouse with you, Theo, yes. and John, and I think even Johnny went too, my best friend. And so I just remember, to your point earlier, the forms still having male and female referenced, and not male and male, not female and female, but it had just been legalized. Mm-hmm. And it was just, it was an amazing feeling going into the courthouse and going and filling out the forms, and we took a picture. I'll share it on this. It's just an amazing feeling. And we went and we signed our marriage license at Frontier in Albuquerque, which is this, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a place in Albuquerque that everybody knows, and
it's right across the University of New Mexico.
Yeah, so. It has good food.
I think that's where my cousin had her quinceañera.
No, not at Frontier. You can't have a quinceañera there. It's like a restaurant that serves like not fast food, but it's almost fast. Like it comes out real fast, but you take a number and you sit down and you wait for them to call your number. Anyways, it's a big establishment across from the University of New Mexico. And so a lot of people go there. It's very good food. Green chili is really good there. Anyway, so we all met there and we signed the marriage certificate, which we never thought we were going to do. We were just going to do like a civil union. So my uncle was part of that historic event, all of us. And I just remember when you were marrying us, he had this he's a great public speaker, by the way. He had this like really cool story, and I'll let you tell it, Theo, so I could stop talking, but talk about a little bit about why you came up with the sermon or whatever speech or whatever you want to call it for our wedding, and how it touched me. It was an awesome
I basically talked about New Mexico and how, for example, St. Francis, the Holy Faith of St. Francis is Santa Fe.
Yep.
Belén, meaning Bethlehem. Las Cruces being the crosses.
These are all cities in New Mexico, by the way.
And so the distance between El Paso and Albuquerque, where he was getting married, is the distance between Egypt and Jerusalem.
Okay, cool.
And so we had
knew all this. It's crazy.
Yeah, we had to leave Egypt to come to the Promised Land in order for him and John to be married. And that's what we're celebrating now, the freedom that we had to come from Texas to New Mexico.
That's awesome.
Because it wasn't legal in Texas, and now all of a sudden it's legal in New Mexico.
And here everybody's gathered for a very religious moment. And so that was something that I had, researched, because I thought, how far is Texas from New Mexico, El Paso, where we came from. And so we passed Bethlehem, we passed 3 crosses, and we come to Albuquerque, the Duke City.
Wow.
And it was just amazing because I was not privy to my uncle's speech, sermon, whatever he was delivering. Mm-hmm. But I know he's always going to deliver a really good public speech or whatever he's doing. I mean, he's spoken at several events, from funerals to weddings and all that, right? Church. But I wasn't expecting that. And it literally teared me up it made me feel like I was part of some type of revolution.
It was accepted. You always just want to be accepted.
History, not even just about being accepted, because anybody can want to be accepted. It didn't, but it was the fact that we were being persecuted as gay men,
Well,
and
wasn't
now
it
we're coming to a different place where we don't even live. We traveled to be able to.
right?
It just
But
touched me when he was saying it because I wasn't prepared for
mhm.
that, and it just
But
meant a lot to that. Our both sides of our family were there. Like
mhm.
John's parents walked him down the aisle. My parents walked me down the aisle. My parents have been divorced since I was 2 years old.
Mhm.
So it meant a lot that everybody gathered, and then his story and speech and all that. It was just a really good.
Okay, but refresh my memory because when was gay marriage legal in Texas?
So
Was
good question. No, no, no.
wasn't it shortly
It
after?
never was legal in Texas. So what happened, Cindy, is that different states that wanted to started passing their own legislation to legalize same-sex marriage. And then what happened was we had planned to get married in December,
Right, and they
and they
pushed it.
legalized it 10 days before. Then after that, that was 2013, December 2013.
Yeah.
In June, I think it was around Pride time in 2014 that it went to the Supreme Court, and they did away with the ban on same-sex marriage. And so across all of the United States, same-sex marriage became legal like that.
Right.
Not even a
So
year after
right,
I got
because
married. So now they
that's what I
recognize.
remember. So not to take away from this
Mhm.
beautiful moment and Luis, what your speech and everything, but I remember Ricky being terco, like this is gonna happen, this is the day, and I remember even asking you like, well, why
I
don't you
don't
just
care if it's
wait?
legal or not.
Like, why don't you just wait and then have it here in Texas and then whatever? You're like, nah, I don't want to go. And so like you, a fuerzas, like you had to go
You're being selfish
wherever.
because you couldn't go.
It's
I
true.
was.
And I would have loved you to be there. It was
I
amazing.
wanted to go, but like I wasn't able to, and so I wanted you. I get it. Like I said, I get it. But I do remember
It
like
was amazing. It just
yeah,
happened like domino effect. Like it was just
hmm
crazy.
yeah.
It was like a year and a half later it became legal through the
It
Supreme
was a
Court.
year and a half later. Okay, I thought
No,
it
Theo, it was
was.
the next year. It was the following year.
The
I got
following year.
married in 2013, and it went legal 2014 the summer. It wasn't
Well,
even
Okay.
a year.
you got married in December, the
Of
last
2013.
month. The last
2013.
month.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So 2015, a year later, because
It felt like it
January
was faster.
January is 2014.
Yeah.
A month, 10, 15 days later, 2 weeks later, is a new year.
But I would have never thought that was going to happen. That was just, it
Now,
just.
that's why Samuel and I got married in 2015, because a year
Yeah.
later is 2015 January.
That's right. That's right.
And
So it was 2015, not 2014.
correct.
It felt like it was, but.
No, because it was less than a year. You barely celebrated your
I had
1 year
just, yeah,
anniversary.
you're right. It was just about a year.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court makes a decision the following year, next month.
There's 2 points in my life, and we have 1 minute left before it's going to cut us off, and then we'll stop and restart. But real quick, 2 points in my life historically that I ever felt so emotional and just alive: Obama becoming president and same-sex marriage. Done.
Okay.
Mic drop.
I'm going to end with that, and then we're going to have part 2. So if you're watching now, I have to stop because we have not upgraded. We're being cheap on Zoom. And
You're being cheap. I told you I would pay for it.
I know, girl. We'll do it. So you guys tune in. I'm going to upload part 2, and I hope you watch. Thank you guys for joining. Watch for part 2.
Thank you.